Also, you want to talk about Super Mario Maker 3DS?
Let's talk about Super Mario Maker 3DS.
It's bad.
That's bad.
Tell me 3 things for Super Mario Maker 3DS that are bad about it.
It does not let you search for levels or follow existing creators.
No search for levels.
Like if you have a level ID from the Wii U version, you can't. There's no place to punch that in.
Well, that's okay because I will be just uploading all my levels.
Number 2, you
ready to play.
Can't upload levels.
Okay, gonna cross that off.
Yeah, you can share them locally. You can collaborate on them locally as well, which is new. But yeah, there's you can street pass a level to someone, but there is no way to upload the levels you've created to the internet. So.
Why is that way?
I couldn't tell you. I
don't get it.
To me, that sounds like there's some sort of logistical thing.
Like this,
where they're like, can't do it.
But it does access the internet to pull down some levels created in the Wii U version of the game. You just can't ever specify what you want beyond a difficulty. So you can say, I want easy or I want super expert, and then you can play that 100 Mario challenge the way it was in the Wii U version of the game, and then they also just have almost like a slot machine where there are literally 2 fucking buttons. One activates a drop down for difficulty, and the other one just says new batch.
Yeah.
And you just hit it, and it just pulls the lever, and then levels pop up, and you can play them or not. There's
2 things about Mario Maker that I will concede that make it a pretty great game. Being able to make and upload and download levels from your friends, with a search, preferably, or being able to follow a creator. And 2, when you put stuff down on the level, and it's like doing it to the music and says the name of the thing, like when you're creating your level, and it's like block, 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 or like ghost. I mean, that is really fun.
They took
still not dry for you on that, huh, Vince?
They took that out too. Can I have a 4th thing?
We're not done here yet, folks.
I mean,
yeah.
If you are playing a level that has a lot of things on screen at the same time, it slows down.
Yep.
At least on an old 3DS. I've not played it on a new 3DS yet. That has a higher clock speed. Maybe that mitigates some of that. But on the base model 3DS.
Yeah.
You mean that DS that still like half the people who own DSs have?
Not the 3DS Pro.
There's slowdown.
There's slowdown.
I was going to say it's slow in general.
You might be right.
How's it look in 3D?
It doesn't have any 3D support.
Okay.
God, fuck. I mean, not that I care about that, but like that's just like the extra cherry on top of fuck you.
That's the only thing I can understand them not incorporating.
Yeah.
I mean, but like all this stuff is something that, I mean, what did you expect for a free game?
It's not. Hang on.
I believe it's a $40 video game.
Let me just search this, and I want to make sure we get the price correct for this.
Okay.
It's free after you pay $40.
$39.99.
$39.99.
I don't know.
So yeah, if this was something that was like Super Mario Maker Player Edition, and it was like, hey, now you can play them on the go, and it's a free way for people to play levels, or like
because that's what it's supposed to do. It seems like you would want to hook people into the Wii U version.
Yeah,
and
no one owns a Wii U. It's fine. It's.
So this seems fair. If nobody,
they're also stopping production on that thing, so it's not going to be around forever.
If nobody owned a Wii U, then nobody's making these levels that you can only play on your 3DS.
It's an endless cycle. There's a chicken and egg, and they're both doomed.
This just sounds like a bad product.
The one thing I will say in its favor is that they have put a bunch of levels in it.
Like made by
Nintendo.
Okay.
And some of these levels are from the Wii U version of the game, so they added event courses and stuff like that over the course of post-release. And so they've added some levels and some challenges that you have to complete on the levels that, if you just want to play a bunch of Super Mario levels, like it's there. I don't think that all those levels are great, and it's missing so much core functionality that made the Wii U game so great. And like our game of the year last year, that to have this thing come out, and they foreshadowed this. They basically said up front what this thing was going to be, so it's not like some huge shock, except for the part where when they said it, you were like, no, come on. And then it came in, and you're like, oh, wait, no, they were not fucking around. This thing is like barely what you want. unless you're like a kid and you have like 8 friends who all have a 3DS and you're like, you have a cycle, a little sewing circle of Mario creators. Maybe that makes sense.
That might be cool.
But that weird internet stuff where it is only locally shareable.
Yeah.
Is that to force people to do that? To get around physically and play their 3DSs?
Like, are they trying to recapture this notion of what 3DS play was like 4 years ago?
I don't know. Like, I look at this
Or
game.
is there some weird like Japanese legal thing where you can't have a kid-targeted product access the internet in certain ways?
I don't think that's true.
So
No way.
Because people were writing police state in question blocks.
There's no way they're still trying to get people in on the Street Pass train.
Yeah.
It's just that ship is sailed.
I think it's.
They're
I think,
not like, oh, here's our Hail Mary.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. There's a couple of potential things I see here. One is that they just genuinely don't understand how the internet works, and that's very easy to believe when you look at Nintendo's track record over the last decade or so. And that maybe there's some sense of like maybe the people who made this thing just kind of lucked into, because if you think about it, like the search tools and stuff like that were in the Wii U version were not amazing.
They were really good at the start.
Yeah, I mean they had to build a website to make some of that stuff like a little bit better
agree.
that you access outside of the game.
I mean, the code stuff was all right.
The code stuff's all right, but still
it's a
Yeah, but don't you
workaround.
think like don't you think after a while that I'm with you, Jeff. I do believe there is some of that in the culture there, but like I don't know. I feel like we're always using that excuse where it's like, oh, they just don't know any better. This is their first. This is the first day on the internet.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you're right. And I don't mean that to like as an apologist of like, oh, those guys. It's more like, what the fuck? Like, especially after they went out and made this partnership with DNA. Like, you know, they had to go out. They had to look outside of themselves to build a network for their next system. You know, they're looking to mobile developers to try to help them with this stuff. And, you know, maybe by the time the Switch comes out, we will see something slightly different. But like, remember, like Mario Maker on the Wii U, like that system has a friends list that was not reflected at all in Mario Maker. Like you had to follow creators manually and stuff like that. And it didn't just go like, oh, here are your system level friends and you can automatically follow them. So there's a lot of dumb mistakes they've made time and time again with this stuff. The other thing I will say is that the 3DS is in a very kind of weird state right now, security-wise, in terms of custom firmware and hacking and downgrading firmware to do a bunch of really nefarious shit with that thing. And a lot of that is based on like injecting malformed save games into your 3DS game to get it to trip up, and the same way people modded Xboxes back in the day of like, oh, we have this malformed Mech Warriors Mech Assault save that then boots it into something where we can install the Evo Dash or whatever it's called. So like people are using, there are a handful of entry points. There are a bunch of different games like that have been closed up by more recent firmware. But I look at it and go like, maybe actually having it so, and they've locked down the saves in this version of the game, like to the point where if you take the cartridge out and move it to a different 3DS, like none of your progress is there. And if you insert that card and start a fresh game over there, you can't then move it back to your first 3DS and pick up where you left off there either.
Wow.
So they're
giving me an aneurysm.
They're locking the cartridges down to 1 unit per, and then the save wipes if you move it.
That seems harder to program than to have a working internet downloadable level thing.
But also, like, you know, they would have to account for, like, what if someone made a Wii U level, and people uploaded malformed, weird Wii U levels that were not possible by modifying saves and doing whatever they did, and Nintendo would pull them off the servers. But there's still a potential for what if someone made a 3DS level, copied it over to this thing, or decrypted the SD data and messed with it and re-encrypted it, and now it boots you into the web browser, and now it crashes, and then you have full access to the system, and you've got root on your 3DS, and you do this, that, and the other. So I imagine that they are spooked by some of that stuff, because that has been happening with other games on the 3DS, that they don't want to create another situation like that, and maybe that has got them scared to a point where they have not
abandoned like whole features of a game.
They shouldn't have released this game. They should have, or if they were going to, it should have just been a player, no editor, and just go that
been
way,
like
or something,
a light version.
$10.
Yeah, exactly. It's I'm just like, and I don't know any of that stuff for sure. Right. I'm more just kind of like looking at it and going like, what are the potential reasons they would like produce this product in this specific like crippled kind of way. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't know.
That is a mystifying thing. The whole product is just a mystifying concept to me.
For me, my default answer is money. I don't know. Somebody ran out of money. They didn't have money to do the server end of it. They didn't have money to put the
server end of it
into
already exists.
But maybe it's different on a 3DS.
So they also took out the one money thing I would say is that they took out all the amiibo support. So all the custom costumes where you would put an amiibo on, or you'd unlock Mega Man, or and then later on they added like Hello Kitty as an unlockable.
And that costume mushroom. thing?
So that costume mushroom is not in this game at all.
Great.
So
what if you encounter it? Is it just a mushroom?
Levels that use that are not playable on the 3DS.
Wow.
They just don't show up in that hopper ever.
Jeez. We just kind of have to move
Fuck
on
this
from
thing.
And
Yeah, I can't talk about this anymore.
And so I imagine that's because they didn't want to mirror the support on the 3DS, because then maybe they would have to pay Sanrio and
it might be a
and
different
Capcom
legal-
for the Mega Man thing. Like, like they might have to do all those licensing deals again, and maybe they just didn't want to do that. Like there's a Mercedes-Benz in that thing that they added at one point. So maybe they just didn't want to do that work for the 3DS version again. I don't know.
I would get this version for like my kid who would be like, oh, okay, you could play these. You're probably not going to build levels anyway, but like here are some levels that you can play. But I would almost feel bad at that point and being like, just play the Wii U version.
Right. Yeah, it's a better running, better looking version of the game that you already own.
We're going to take another break here.